Hello, everyone. So, I worked last night. I've been working. I'm on my fourth week. I've been feeling like it feels good. I feel really good. My back keeps locking up on me. Like, there's this one pull trick I do, and every time, like later on while I'm in stage, like my back will start to lock up, and so I have to keep moving to keep it kind of limbered up and loosen up the joints. It's been wonderful. I've been having a really good time. And I know that's just me saying it, but at the same time, it's been good. Like I've been more. I really think I've been more present with my family. I think I've been more calm. I think I've just been happier. So it's been really nice. I've had a lot of experiences in strip clubs of people who come in who try to proselytize to the dancers. And I've seen it done well and I've seen it done poorly. So I had that happen to me again like a couple weeks ago. There was this guy who came in and he paid me to sit and talk with him, which is good. He didn't waste my time, which is nice. But he was pretty intoxicated, and he had clearly come there to convert the strippers over to Christianity. But the thing is, he had a particular brand of Christianity that he believed in, and I don't think he would have accepted any other type or style or set of Christian beliefs as legitimate, because the one he believed in was the one that he thought was the one that everybody needed to follow. And so it was one of those situations. And so he came in and he was drunk and he was getting drunker by the minute. And he gave me $100 and asked me to sit with him. And I told him I would sit with him for an hour if he gave me $100. I did warn him that I would have to go up on stage when I got called on stage, stuff like that. And so I sat with this guy for an hour. And if you're sitting there thinking, like, if you're familiar with the dancing world and how much money dancers make, you might notice that, like, a 15-minute dance costs $125 in some clubs or something like that, 125, 150, sometimes even 160. So by agreeing to sit with him for an entire hour for only $100, there was a part of me that was constantly reading the room, like, is it getting busier? Because if it's getting busy, I might have to not take a second $100 for a second hour of sitting. But I mean, I sat with him for an hour, and I mean, he's talking to me about God. He's talking to me about how I have to give my heart to Jesus, and just keeps on telling me, give your heart to Jesus. Like, somehow repeating this phrase is going to convince me more that I need to ascribe to his particular set of beliefs. And I decided, since I was sitting and talking with him for an hour, I might as well tell him about the book that I'm trying to write, because, like, I mean, I've got to talk with him for an hour, and if I'm going to be talking with someone, I'm going to try to find some common ground, some common interests, some things to make the conversation, a good conversation. Incidentally, a lot of people have been paying me a lot of money lately just to sit and talk with them. Like, I'm not exactly a sexy dancer for a lot of people. So, I mean, I notice a lot of people who, when they pay me to sit and talk with them, they'll tip me money to sit and talk with them, and then they go to get dances from other dancers who are, a little bit more sexy, a little bit more physically affectionate, which I think is fine. I'm still making my money at the end of the day, and that's kind of the whole point. But it strikes me as funny. And in case you're one of those guys, because there are definitely those guys on the internet who are like, oh, well, that's just another sign that you're too old to be a dancer, like, you're an old woman, what are you doing in a strip club? I got tipped a lot on stage last night, like, more than I expected to be. And I was like, it's starting to dawn on me a little bit that if I was as old and ugly as I think I am, or sometimes feel that I am, people probably would not be throwing as much money as they throw at me, especially when, like, and I think it's for pole tricks. Like, they're tipping for pole tricks, and I love pole tricks, so I'm doing this stuff to keep myself physically healthy and in shape, and they're throwing money. But yeah, this particular gentleman that I'm referring to, he sat with me, and we talked about religion, and I told him about a book that I'm writing, because one of the books, actually, I'm writing a series, and I'm also writing a standalone book. The standalone book is all about religion and God. The series it definitely has God featured in it as a component of the story. And so I figured, hey, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got some common ground that we can meet at. There we go. That might be a little bit better. So I figured, this shouldn't be too bad. It wasn't too bad, but I started telling him about the story, and very quickly he asked me if the story was... First of all, he noticed that women were tipping women on the stage, and he was like, oh, they're lesbians. And I'm looking at these women who are tipping women on the stage, I'm like, they don't look like lesbians to me, but okay, whatever, if you think they're lesbians, whatever. And then he asked me if the main characters in my story were lesbians, to which I had to admit that yes, the story did feature lesbian characters, which, spoilers, if you like girl-on-girl action, I've got a book coming out in the next few years you might enjoy. Okay, so then he asked me, well, are you a lesbian? And I was like, I'm married, which he already knew, but he's like, well, that doesn't mean anything, which credits to him, even being drunk, even being, like, intoxicated, this dude knew that just because you're married, that doesn't necessarily make you 100% straight, which I think a lot of even the gay community hasn't figured out. So I just I just looked at him and was like, well, okay. He's like, so have you had sexual relations with women? I was like, well, yes, I have before I got married. And so he's like, oh, I see. And I'm just sitting there like, yes, I fuck women. What, dude, what the hell? But I mean, Christian, very, very, very literal translation of the Bible kind of Christian. So I'm sitting there like, okay, so you're thinking that's a sin. He's trying to rescue me from my sins, obviously, and so coming into the strip club, he thinks that's a sin for me to be dancing there. He thinks me having sex with women in the past is also a sin, and he's trying to rescue me from my sins, and he keeps on telling me repeatedly, accept Jesus into your heart. And it's like, dude, I grew up around born-agains, and number one, if you're trying to convince anybody to change their mind about their worldview, doing so when you are drunk is not a great way to do it. Like, it's not gonna give you the eloquence of speech or the mind frame that you necessarily need to get that job done. Number two, people are just people. It's not something you can just go into a strip club and then say, accept Jesus into your heart. And if you say it like 14 times in a row, all of a sudden, magically, the woman's going to be like, oh my gosh, I never realized. It doesn't work like that. And so I wanted to talk about like some of the times that people have come in and tried to do missionary work in strip clubs, and some of the experiences that I've had with people doing that kind of work that have actually been pretty good. I've seen some really good missionary work inside of strip clubs. I mean, stripper 8 years, so eventually you see things. And then I've also seen some really ridiculous situations. Like, this guy was not particularly ridiculous. He actually took the time to ask me what my religious beliefs were before he started proselytizing to me, which, in fairness, that's a really good thing, because some people, they just assume that you're like a godless heathen the moment they walk in. Like, oh, that girl's running around in her underwear, must be a godless heathen. It's like, dude, it's a strip club. You're here too. He actually took the time to ask, which kudos to him. He did do that right. It got a little bit awkward when I got up to leave, and he grabbed me by the clothes, by like the lacy part of my underwear, and just kind of pulled me right back, and I ended up plopping back down in my chair, and I looked at him and I started laughing, because it's like, dude, what do you think is going to happen here? Like, you can't just force someone to believe the same beliefs about God that you believe. Moreover, there is a wide variety of beliefs about God in this world, not just your beliefs about God, other people's beliefs about God. Personally, I prefer my own beliefs about God to your beliefs about God. But, you know, good on you for trying to do what you think is right. In retrospect, if I was a better business person, like if I was a better salesperson, I would have simply told him, hey, if you want my undivided attention for an hour, we should go up to one of the private rooms. I don't have to dance for you at all there. Like, a lot of the times I don't dance. People just want me to be there for conversation. We go up to one of the private rooms. We sit down. You pay $450. And the two of us sit down and, you know, talk for an hour. And nobody's going to bother us for an hour. You have my complete undivided attention. And I know that I'm making my money for the night, so I'm not getting antsy thinking, do I need to get up and start making sales? And you know that I'm not distracted. That's what I should have done. But I looked at it, was like, you know, this dude's trying to do the right thing. I don't want to take all his money, you know. Sure, I'll sit with him for an hour for $100 tip, as long as he lets me go up on stage when I have to go up on stage, like if they call my name. If we're doing special, which we did a few specials, like we did a dollar dance special, because, you know, you guess the company I'm working for. But so at the end of our hour, I looked at it, was like, the club's getting pretty full. I've been talking to this guy for an hour. He's repeatedly told me to accept Jesus into my heart, but he hasn't supplied much else in conversation. I think it's time for me to go. I looked at it at the time. I looked at him. I was like, okay, I'm really sorry, but it's been an hour. And he's like, well, you only spent some of the time with me. You didn't even spend all the time with me. I was like, okay, all right, bye. I'm trying to be nice to this person, and it's like, clearly we weren't working on the same level. We had different understandings of how the evening was supposed to go. And that's fine, but it was interesting. Better situation, much better situation, completely different. It was another club that I worked in years ago, and there were these girls who would come in, and they were part of some sort of missionary program designed by former exotic dancers who had converted Christianity. And what they would do is they would bring in snacks and treats and baked goods, and they would set up like a little table in the corner of the club, and the dancers could come over and grab a snack and talk with the missionaries if they wanted to, or they could just grab a snack and leave. They didn't have to talk to the missionaries. And I remember working in that club, and I would go, and I didn't want to just take their snacks and leave. It just seemed, not the nice, courteous thing to do. So I would grab a snack, and I would sit around and I'd talk with them, and I told them, I'm not what people think of when they think of an exotic dancer, which doesn't mean that there aren't exotic dancers like me. It's just that there's a stereotype, and people expect everyone who's an exotic dancer to live to that stereotype, and I don't. And so I was talking with them, is like, yeah, I'm married, we're just trying to make ends meet, things are good, we're very committed to each other, we're trying to have a baby, all that stuff, because I was younger at the time, and I was talking to them, for months. Every time they showed up and I was at work, I would go over, I'd say hi to them because they were familiar. I'd get like a snack. I was going to bring it. I have a mug that they gave me because they had like a little treat mug with like little candies and like a decorative coffee or whatever inside this mug, like hot chocolate or something. And I grabbed one for me, and then they came back with those same mugs, like that same like concept later. And so I grabbed one for my husband. So my husband and I had two mugs for like the longest time. And my kids actually broke my mug, but my husband's is still mostly alive. It's got a big chip in it, but otherwise it's still there. It's a cute little mug, and I was gonna bring it. I didn't remember to for this video. But anyway, like it just as time went by, and at some point I had a baby, and they sent a gift basket to the club for me with like a set of pajamas and a baby blanket, and I can't remember. I think it was like a coupon to a massage parlor. I can't remember. It was just a really nice, thoughtful thing. And I've noticed, like, even in sales with dancing right now at the club I'm working at, there's so much pressure to make sales for the dancers because there's a lot of dancers. The night doesn't pick up until a little bit later on, and so I noticed the dancers, they're very aggressive with sales. Like, I've been sitting at a table with guys, and I'll be sitting and talking to a guy, and a dancer will walk up behind me, grab the guy next to him by the hand, pick him up off his chair, and just carry him, like lead him away. And what's the guy going to do? He's going to have to physically wrestle himself away from this girl in order to not be led off. And I think most of the guys, they kind of want to be led off. They're probably making a little bit of eye contact with the girl, so the girl just yoinks him. But at the same time, like, it just seems a lot of the girls, they're about the sale. They want the sale. They want to make the money. This is how much dances cost. Do you want to dance? They're really working on it. I'm in a different place in my life. Like, I came into the club because I need exercise, and so I want to dance, and that's mostly it. Money is also great. Who doesn't want money? I love money. Money's awesome. But I've been taking a very relaxed, kind of casual approach to making sales. And I've noticed that being more relaxed and casual and trying to, trying to go against the common trend of lots of pressure to make sales, I go in and I try to be very low pressure. I don't talk about dances. I don't talk about sales. I just sit and talk with the guys, and then at some point I'm like, oh, hey, I forgot to ask, do you want to dance? And that's actually been working really well for me. Some guys just don't want dances. They just want to sit and talk, and I've been making money just sitting and talking with guys, and every once in a while it's like, oh, I forgot to ask, do you want a tip for conversation? Because we've been talking here for a while, and I am technically still working, and I would technically like to make money. And I think that's what a lot of people actually want. They don't want to have this super transactional kind of interaction with the dancers. They want to flirt with the dancers. They want to talk with the dancers, and then maybe get a dance. And so, like, low pressure is a great sales tactic sometimes, especially if you're in an environment where high pressure is kind of the norm. And the idea with human sexuality among women, and particularly the idea in a strip club, because a strip club is like a microcosm of human sexuality. Women want to stand out. The woman who stands out is the one who gets the most attention. And so if you're the only blonde in a sea of brunettes, you're going to stand out. But at the same time, if you're the only brunette in a sea of blondes, you're going to stand out. The girl who stands out is the one who gets the most attention, especially if everyone is beautiful. And so by not following the trend that everybody else is following, I'm actually doing pretty darn well. The same can be kind of said of a lot of the Christian ministry that I've seen. The people who are very low pressure, who are just Christian, and by the way, we're doing a ministry if you're interested, and also here's a cupcake because we're giving away cupcakes right now. Very low pressure, just really friendly, very amicable. I've noticed that they get a lot more headway with me, and they get a lot less resistance from me. I'm currently a Wiccan. I converted to Catholicism for several years because my husband is Catholic, and I want our children to grow up Catholic. We're sending our children to a Christian school. It's really expensive, but this is something I want for my family. I really struggle with a lot of Christianity. Honestly, one of the things I struggle with is the coercive pressure that I have experienced especially in my younger years, like as a child and a teenager, from Christians who wanted to basically force me to believe the way they believed, specifically the way they believed. Not just Christianity, not just believing in God, not just believing in Jesus, but their version of Christianity. Theirs is the only one that's right. Ultimately, that was a huge turnoff for me, to the point that even now I struggle to deal with a lot of Christian concepts. And so Wicca was kind of my back door to religion. Like, Wicca is not the kind of religion you take particularly seriously. Like, especially if you take time to really study the history of Wicca. It was developed by an old man who wanted to see women naked. Fair enough. It helps me to worship God without having to deal with so much of the negative weight that is attached to Christianity. It's a way to be religious without dealing with so much of the negativity that I've experienced in Christianity, because it's gotten to the point now where I acknowledge that I can't be a Christian because I've dealt with so much crazy. I remember one time I was in a strip club. The usual missionaries weren't there, and this other group of missionaries had come in. God knows where they came from. The woman who was leading it, the really vocal one, had freaking crazy eyes. And she comes up to me and she's like, "Can we pray over you?" And I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?" And they're like, "Let's pray over you. Jesus, we need you to save this girl." And I'm sitting there like, dude, I just clocked into work. I just sat down. I'm like trying to get my mind into the game so that I can earn my money for the night. Who the fuck are you? Where the fuck did you come from? And why the fuck are you praying over me because you think the devil has a hold of me? Like, you don't know enough about me to know. But here you are. I was very uncomfortable. And afterwards, like, one of the bouncers, he noticed that I was extremely uncomfortable being around those people. And he kind of asked me about it. And I was like, well, I'm fine. I'm fine. But I don't really like that really, really preachy, aggressive. And he's like, yeah, they're not coming back here. I was like, good. I think that's for the best. I can take, like, I've had dudes like grab me in a strip club, like grab a hold of me and not let go, and I had to wrestle myself loose from them. And obviously they don't put up a huge fight. It's not like I'm physically overpowering them, but they realize at some point that if I fight them anymore, it's going to get obvious and awkward for them. Like, oh, you're really physically manhandling a stripper, and then they usually let go when they start to realize, like, no, she doesn't want you to hold her like that. I've had guys grab me and I've looked them dead in the eye and said, you let go of me right now. And they realize that I'm getting angry and not going to back down, and then they back down. That doesn't unsettle me nearly so much as a bunch of Christians who have, like, serious crazy eyes. I'm not kidding about the crazy eyes. And coming in and, like, laying hands on me and praying over me to Jesus in this very frantic, kind of agitated sort of way. It's unsettling because human beings are naturally afraid of what is unpredictable. And a person who is so filled with conviction about their religion that they think that they are justified in acting any kind of way they want to is just a really unpredictable and therefore terrifying thing. And this is why I don't practice Christianity. It's not that Christians are bad. I've seen some really wonderful Christians. I have a lot of respect for a lot of practicing Christians that I've met. Be devoted to your religion, be devoted to your God. That's fantastic. That's good for you, and I'm happy. I've had people do some really, like, I've had people do some really shitty things to me and justify it because of their religious beliefs. And eventually it's kind of like, you know what? Just because you say that God wants you to do this, it doesn't make it any less of a shitty thing to do. And just because you say you're a Christian, it doesn't make your actions any less shitty. So I guess my problem with Christianity isn't Christians. It's fake-ass, superficial Christians who don't really care about being good Christians. Like, yeah. Like, hypocritical people are just, I mean, you find them in every religion. It's not like Christianity is unique. Honestly, I think Christianity is kind of better in a lot of ways because they generally practice a pretty mellow approach. They generally practice a pretty, I mean...
How you doing tonight? You doing okay? Would you like to come in and have church with us? Sit with us for church? You bringing us something to eat this morning? Here's the coffee. Coffee to keep you warm. Let's just pray for you real quick. Dear Heavenly Father, so thankful, Lord, that you brought this man to your church on your day, Lord. We are so blessed that he is here.
You're welcome to come inside. We'd love to have you. All right, come in.
I would say they're one of the better religions out there. You know, even despite my very negative experiences with them and my very strong dislike of certain Christian practices, I'd say they're one of the better religions out there on the market. If you're looking for a religion, Christianity, definitely the way to go. Especially, like, if you read the Bible. Especially, like, if you pay attention to the stuff Jesus said. That guy was pretty cool. Yeah. But, for me, no, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm done with Christianity. I'm going to practice my Wicca. And if I happen to have a lot of Christian symbols on my altar because, you know, they mean something to me, well, you know, Wicca says that's an okay thing to do, and I'm a Wiccan, so I'm going to do that. The funniest example of a Christian who tried to proselytize to me was a dude who approached me. It was the end of the night, and I was finalizing the sale on a dance, and it was a big dance. It was one of the VIP dances, so this is multiple hundreds of dollars that's going to be going into my pocket. But it's the end of the night. We have to hurry, because the moment the hour turns, you can't sell an hour-long dance. You have to sell a half-hour dance. So I'm like, okay. I gotta make this thing happen. I gotta make this thing happen now. I'm going through the process with the bartender, and this drunk man stumbles up to me. He's like, you know what? Like, God is really telling me right now that you need to give your heart to Jesus. And I'm like, dude, I'm finalizing a sale. I don't have time for this. Like, I literally, like, I don't have time for this. And he just keeps going. You know, God, he's slurring his words, really, like weaving back and forth while he's standing, like super, super drunk. God is telling me, like, you're just such a beautiful girl, and God is telling me that you really need to leave the strip club. You need to give your heart to God. And I'm like, unless you are paying me multiple hundreds of dollars right now, you need to clear the fuck out so that I can get money from this other gentleman who is patiently standing and watching you just blabber at me. I'm losing money as you speak. And he just would not shut up. And this was when I was younger and poorer. Like right now I'm in a very lucky place in life where my husband can be functionally the primary breadwinner. Me having this job, it helps, but it's not because we need it. It's because I need the exercise, and I need to get out of the house, and I need to, you know, socialize with other adults, and then I need to, you know, just all those things. I have a lot of needs that I need to be productive, get out of the house, exercise, exercise. So, like, right now, I can be a little bit more relaxed about what I earn at the strip club. Like, I'm just there to work and exercise and take care of myself. When I was younger, I was trying to pay my bills. I needed to make money, like, to pay bills. My rent was due. My electric bill was due. I had things I needed to do. And this guy is just talking and slurring and talking. And it's like, dude, you're here too. You're drunk. You've been staring at my booty this entire night. Like, how can you honestly, and I'm only assuming that the logic is logicking for you right now because you are really, really drunk. How can you legitimately look at me and say, you're a sinner, but I've been looking at your ass and tits all night long? Like, how can you do that? Like, how can you think that that's okay? I've been here working. You came here voluntarily. Nobody dragged you. And you chose to sit there ogling the stage and getting drunker and drunker and drunker as the night went on. Jesus isn't telling you anything. You're just drunk. The most frustrating thing, and the reason I remember this guy so well, is because I finally got him to go away. And then I went to make the sale, and it was too late in the night to make the full hour sale, so I had to settle for a half hour. And I was ticked. Because, again, trying to pay the rent, trying to pay the bills. I have a phone bill. I have an electric bill. You know, if we want to maintain our internet, I'd better be paying that bill. Right now I'm a lot more casual about dancing, because it's like, I'm here for the exercise. I love exercise. Exercise is good. And I'm here to hang out with people. People are great. I love people. You meet so many interesting people in strip clubs. It's awesome. At the time, it was not so easy. So yeah, those are 4 different situations in which people have proselytized to me. I think the missionaries who, I can't remember, it was some sort of stripper ministries or something. They were basically, they would just come in and they would sit and talk with the dancers and try to be supportive and try to be nice to us. They tried to listen to our stories and be very understanding, and they were the most Christian out of all the Christians who've come in and talked to me about Christianity, which is really funny. But anyway, that's been my experience of it. What do you guys think? Like, do you think missionaries have a place in strip clubs? If they do have a place in strip clubs, I really hope that they end up being more like the Christians who would come in and do this little stripper Christian ministries thing. They weren't judgy. Everybody else has been kind of judgy, which is a little funny because, again, they're here too. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Anyway, I think that's it for me now. It is ridiculously hot in this car, and it is ragweed season, so my eyes are starting to water like crazy. I hope you are all in good health, and I will talk to you guys later.